And welcome back. Starting off now with section 2.4, seeing ahead. In order to be a safe driver, and you can read this yourself, you need to know what's going on all around your vehicle. Not looking properly is a major cause of accidents. Seeing ahead, it tells you how to do it. The importance of looking far enough ahead and how far ahead you need to look. This is the very important part of this. There's going to be a lot of questions. Could be a lot of questions that have to do with this right here. 12 to 15 seconds ahead. It's what it says. How far does that end up being? Well, it tells you right over here in the figure of the diagram. City driving is about 1 block. Highway driving is about a quarter of a mile. So you need to know that. There are questions that have to do with that. Look for traffic, of course. Any kind of traffic, whether it be stopped, whether it be moving, whether it be leaving the highway, whether it be coming back on. If a traffic light, this is very important, and I go over this a lot once we start driving. If a traffic light has been green for a long time, it will probably change before you get there. Start slowing down and be ready to stop. You're not in a car anymore. This needs to be known, that you've got a lot more weight. It takes you a lot more time to stop. We'll go over that a lot more when we start driving. And some other stuff here. Always looking to the side and the rear. Know what's going on around you. This is part of being a professional driver. Make sure your mirrors are in adjustment. You have regular checks of your mirrors. And traffic, always know where they are, where they're moving, how, when, where, and just you have to keep track of everything. It's a lot to do, but you have to do it to remain safe. Lane changes. Always check your mirror first. Of course, it helps if somebody's riding with you. They can tell if somebody's over here in your blind spot. And then we go over, of course, turns, merges, tight maneuvers, how to use your mirrors. This is a diagram of what it looks like when you're looking through your mirrors and how much visibility you have behind you. Nothing here in the blind spot. You have to know about that. And the convex fisheye spot or bug eye mirror, it gives you a little bit more visibility, but it changes what everything looks like because of the way it's shaped. But you'll need to know that. That's very important. Let people know what you're doing before you're going to do it. You would expect that from somebody else on the road. But being that we're going to be professionals, we need to always provide that where a lot of other people will not. So you're signaling your intentions. Turns. Make yourself very familiar with this. Lane changes, of course. Way before changing lanes, you want to put on your turn signal. Slowing down, here's some reasons you might be slowing down. So you want to make it as visible as possible for everybody else to know what's going on in front of you, or at least to be able to see you. This is very important. Do not direct traffic. You may find yourself at a stop sign sometimes where you're waving somebody through if you get there at the same time. You don't do that anymore. Everybody sits there, you look dumber than anybody else. That's what you want. You want to look dumber than anybody else and just sit there, wait for somebody else to go. If they wave you on, that's fine, but don't wave them on. There's been instances where people have done that. The person that they waved on got into an accident, and the person that waved that person on has been found liable of causing the accident. It sucks, but that's the way it is. Okay, so you want to communicate your presence, again, in every possible way that you can. Let them know what you're doing. Let's see. You can see over here, we haven't quite got to it yet, but you've got these markers right here. This is if you break down alongside of the highway or have to stop for some reason for an extended period of time. You're looking at where you have to set your emergency reflective triangles. One-way divided highway or two-way undivided highway. And we'll get to that more in just a minute. So when it's hard to see, make yourself easier to see as much as possible. That means headlights, marker lights, everything that you have on, you need to have on. Now this goes into what's next here when parked at the side of the road. This goes through, if you ever have to do this, this is on a straight road right here. This is in ideal conditions, right? So once you get down here, this goes over if you're on a hill, this increases just a little bit. okay? And then on a curve, of course, this increases a little bit as well. It's to make sure that you're seen before somebody comes up behind you too fast and can't get stopped. All right, so make yourself very familiar with this. There are questions that pertain to this on your permit test. Moving on, stopping distance. Very important to know, average perception time for an alert driver is 1 3/4 seconds, or 1.75. Not sure how that could be written. There are some questions that ask about at 55 miles per hour, your perception time, how far will you travel? And at 55 miles per hour, that equates to 142 feet. By the time you realize there's a emergency or a situation in front of you, that's how far you will travel before you can get your foot to the brake. Reaction distance. So you have to know what's going on. Your reaction distance is above and beyond the 142 feet, so that adds another 62 or 61. Then you've got braking distance, which is how long it takes for the truck to actually come to a stop. Finally coming into and equaling your total stopping distance, which all those together equal 419 feet. There is questions on the test that have to do with 419 feet. It's very specific as of this, for this actual diagram right here and this number right here. So that's the number that you need to keep in your head. Also, this is a very important note as well. Faster you drive, the greater impact or striking power of your vehicle. If you double your speed, the impact is 4 times, not just double. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, so you might want to read that and make yourself very familiar with that, okay? Moving on, the effect of a vehicle weight on stopping distance. This is very important too. There are many questions that could be about that, worded in different ways, so know what that, make sure you make yourself very familiar with this. And always match your speed to road surface. It kind of goes without saying. If you've got a nice smooth road, you can run a little faster than what you can on gravel. Slippery surfaces. Everybody should know it takes you longer to stop on slippery surfaces. So if you're on a wet road, people might not think of wet roads being slippery, but they can be. And ice, of course, is even worse. And these are just identifying some of those spots. And some of these might, sneak up on you. So you always have to, as a professional driver, you have to be aware of what the possibilities are and what you're coming up against. All right. So hydroplaning is of course one of these. You have to be well aware of hydroplaning, spending as much time on the road as you will as a truck driver. This is very important to know, and it could be on your permit test as well. Speed and curves. Make yourself very familiar with this, of course. Speed and distance ahead. You'll always be able to stop within the distance you can see ahead. You should always be able to stop, sorry. And that means if you have lower visibility, you're going to have to drive slower because you'll have less visibility. Speed and traffic flow. Never go over the speed limit, even if traffic flow is moving faster than the speed limit. The main reason drivers exceed the speed limit is to save time. But these first 2 sentences, the risks involved are never worth it. Too many variables, too many things can happen if you're driving too fast down the road. Speed on downgrades. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in air brakes. However, you need to know a little bit about this because there could be some touching on it in the actual general knowledge test. So be aware of this. Again, if it's not highlighted, you still need to read through it and make yourself familiar with it. I highlight everything that's needed to answer the questions right in here. That should be sufficient. However, there can be some more specific questions that have to do with air brakes or combination vehicles. So the more familiar familiar you are with all of the text in each one of these subsections, the better off and the more prepared you're going to be when you take your general knowledge test. And just the farther ahead you'll be when you're ready to take the next 2 tests. Okay, so this is subsections 2.4, 2.5, and 2.6. Study it. Make sure you can answer all these questions. We'll be back to start with the next section. Good luck. Have fun.